15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Wait a minute. I've heard that before. That's the note Jeremy wrote to me in my yearbook in the 6th grade. How'd you even know that?
Because it's from Geico.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Dear Luke, have a great summer. P.S. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. Love, Jeremy.
Geico's had this tagline for years, because we help save people money.
So wait, you're saying Jeremy copied you? Yeah, that actually does sound like something the J-Man would do.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! 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 Ah! Gah!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on.
Ow!
And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Hello guys and welcome back to What's Up Doc, the documentary review podcast. I am your host, Gemma Delaney, and we are coming to you from the beautiful, beautiful country of Ireland, as always. The sunny southeast of Ireland, in fact, County Wexford. And look, if you already follow us, you know what we're about. We do regular recommendations of whatever true crime documentaries are out and about at that point in time. So what I'm doing at the moment, if you follow me on social media, you'll already know this, but what I'm doing at the moment is I'm doing a top 100 true crime documentaries as voted and rated on IMDb, in no particular order, to be honest with you. I'm not doing it from 100 to 1. I'm just the top 100 as they are rated on IMDb. So we're doing that over on our social media. We're at What's Up Doc Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook, and then on Twitter we are at What's Up Doc Pod. But yeah, if you want to head on over to our social media, like I said, on Instagram, every night I'm giving a recommendation. I'm giving the next in the top 100 true crime documentaries as rated on IMDb. So that's fun. That's fun in lockdown, right? When there's fuck all to do. It's nice to have something recommended to you to watch every night. And if you're like me and you've got, this morbid fascination with true crime, but also kind of a hunger for knowledge, I think that's where the documentary element of it comes in. It has to be documentaries. I like to know the details and the nitty-gritty elements of crimes and crime stories. But yeah, look, tonight's recommendation is what we are here talking about, and it is Dear Zachary. Now, Dear Zachary has been around a long time. It's not a new documentary, but shockingly, I hadn't fucking seen it. It's just one of those documentaries that had slipped through the cracks, and as well, it's probably something that I read the synopsis for, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds nice. That sounds like a sweet little documentary, and just never bothered me whole. Looking into it further or trying to watch it. And funnily enough, when I first started this podcast, it was one of the first suggestions to me. So I used to put up weekly polls on my Instagram stories, kind of going, do you want me to do this or this? Do you want me to do this or this? Do you want me to do this or this? And then one week I threw up just an open suggestion box on Instagram. And I was like, hit me with the suggestions. What do you want me to cover? And this was one of them. But again, like any documentary, I guess that I wasn't around for the hype of. So I didn't really know the backstory of this. I just, like I said, probably Googled it, read the synopsis and was like, oh yeah, well, sounds good. Yeah, I'll watch that someday. But it didn't grab me. So just to backtrack a little bit, Dear Zachary, the director, you're unlikely to have heard of this guy, Kurt Cohen. Probably pronouncing that completely fucking scoways, you know yourself, but it's something like that. I'm pronouncing it phonetically. Apologies, Kurt. Miscusi. And the intended audience then, I guess, is everyone. Like, while this documentary, it definitely covers death. It covers other topics as well. I don't want to give too much away too early, but nothing is done in an overt or a gratuitous way. So it's really suitable for anyone and everyone, you know, although it definitely does cover some heavy subject matter. But yeah, so Dear Zachary, as I understood it when I gave it the old quick Google before I watched it, and like I said, this is probably what put me off for so long, is that I thought it was going to be, I knew Dear Zachary was basically a video diary to this boy in the wake of his father's death. So, okay, spoiler alert. But look, if you even just Google the doc, that's literally what the Wikipedia breakdown says. So yeah, a video diary to a child to explain just, you know, who his father was, this, you know, just much loved, larger than life, you know, everybody's friend, lights up a room. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be flippant, but you know, when people die, all the positive mantra and all the positive things people have to say about them. And that's what it was. And Kurt, the director, was this guy, Andrew, Andrew's best friend. So like, who better to direct it? So yeah, a video diary to a child to explain, you know, just who his murdered father, who he would never know was, by interviewing everybody that loved him, his nearest and dearest, his friends and his family. Tragically, there is a turn of events while they were shooting this documentary that then kind of sends the narrative into a tailspin. But more on that later. So, look, Dear Zachary is a pretty well-known documentary, but like I said, I had never watched it. So that was the extent of my knowledge on the subject matter. I just thought it was going to be a very cutesy, like, oh, here, son, here's your pa, you know. And, you know, all his friends and family then, you know, piece to camera, regaling us with, you know, oh, one time your pa did this and one time, you know, and that kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, it's a really well-known true crime documentary. It's been critically acclaimed. And like, it has a very hard to beat and very respectable 8.5 on IMDb and like 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. So nothing to be sniffed at all. But yeah, while I knew the general storyline, like that was the general storyline as far as I understood it, so I wasn't really expecting anything particularly spectacular, and that's probably why I didn't jump to watch it all those years ago. But yeah, I expected a pleasant recounting of a man's life in a video diary style format, very nice. So I decided to stick it on. A summary of the story itself then, I suppose, is back in 2001, this 28-year-old guy, Andrew Bagby, he was a doctor, Dr. Andrew Bagby, known as Bags to his friends, was found dead. He'd been shot 5 times and his body was left close to his car in a park near where he lived in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Pretty quickly then, it becomes obvious who the perpetrator of the killing was. His on-again, off-again girlfriend, also a doctor, Shirley Turner. So after the shooting, Shirley flees back to where she comes from, Newfoundland. And then tragically, we discover that she's actually pregnant with Andrew's child, who is Zachary, the Dear Zachary in the title. So obviously then Andrew's lifelong, you know, childhood friend, Kurt, who's also a filmmaker, handy enough, decides to take the hours and hours and hours of footage that he has shot of Andrew throughout their childhood and adolescence. And like, that's really beautiful, and works so well within the narrative, and it's just lovely to see, and you really get a feel for the type of person that Andrew was. And that's sometimes an element that's missing from films, because you're talking about people after the fact, and bar maybe, you know, a video of a wedding or something, you don't ever actually get to see any footage of them. So he's all this footage of Andrew acting out these parts in screenplays that he has written for him, and then shoots, you know, as well. So he's just got hours and hours and hours of all this amateur footage. which is really sweet. And then like it shows their family and their friends taking part, you know, playing all the roles. So Andrew's parents are in it playing roles, and like obviously then in this documentary we get to know them really well as well, because obviously they are like a huge part of this story as well. But yeah, and like, you know, even Andrew, you get a sense, like I said, through the footage for the type of person he was, a really solid little actor, actually. You know, even as a child, it's shown him, you know, probably at 12 and 13, like pretending to be like a fucking mafioso gangster or whatever, effing and blinding to his ma and dad, and, you know, crying on cue in other roles. So, you know, a solid little actor. But he combines that, or his plan, I should say, is to combine that footage from his past and use it with then newly shot footage that he's going to shoot, going around, you know, recording the friends and the family, interviewing them, and then he's going to kind of edit it all together in a, you know, this is your dad and this was his life type movie for Andrew's unborn child Zachary, so that, you know, he may know on some level at least his father, who, you know, unfortunately has been murdered by his mother. So yeah, what happens then is she has fled. Shirley, the murderer, has fled back to Newfoundland, and then Andrew's parents, David and Kate, start this legal battle. So initially they're trying to extradite her, because obviously Newfoundland, that's up in Canada, and they're down in the US. When that doesn't work, and when they realise that's not going to work, what they then do is they sell everything up, sell up completely, and relocate to Newfoundland to pursue this. And also because, you know, she's about to give birth to their grandchild and they want fucking custody. So they absolutely uproot their lives in the house that they've been living in, you know, their whole marriage, where they've raised Andrew, in the communities that they've raised their family in, go to Newfoundland, the homeland of their son's murderer, in an attempt to A, get justice, get her behind bars, and then B, obviously, get custody of the child, Zachary. There's a lot of to and fro. There's a lot of arson around, you know, as it's stated several times in the documentary. The Canadian legal system is very slow. So, and Kurt actually does a really nice job of documenting that and showing you just how fucking slow and needlessly slow really it is. He's very good. He does narrate the film as well. After, look, a lengthy fucking legal battle, they finally manage to get Shirley in jail, and they get, you know, temporary custody of Zachary. And while this is going on, then Kurt is over in England, traveling through England, where Andrew's mum, Kate, is from, and, you know, kind of talking to the maternal side of the family there and getting, you know, their memories of Andrew. And then he hops back across the pond back to the US and travels around speaking to Andrew's many friends, family and colleagues, and getting their take on everything that's going on, you know, and speaking, you know, to the last people who spoke to him before he died. And, you know, that was subsequently how they found out that Shirley was guilty, because he had told the friends that he was going to meet her. They knew he was seeing her. They knew she was trouble, and they knew he was going there to break up with her. And yeah, so he's documenting all of this while there's this upheaval with David and Kate up in Newfoundland, and obviously the court case. So they get temporary custody of Zachary, but like in this just absolutely fucking bizarre turn of events and twist of fate, they then have to have daily phone calls with their son's murderer so that she can have contact with her child. Do you get me? Did I make that clear? I know it's a little bit tricky to follow, but obviously she's murdered their son, but she's also the mother of their grandson, Zachary. So they have temporary custody, but they have to then accept calls from her daily while she's in prison. Collect calls, I might fucking add, just to completely turn the knife in your side. And yeah, have to plumose her, like have to endure her while these calls are taking place. And like all prison calls are, they're all recorded and they're in the documentary, and they just make your blood boil. Absolutely make your blood boil. How she's like trying to play happy families with them and trying to engage them in conversation, and they're just having fucking none of it. Like, they're very curt with her. They're just like to the fact, to the point, trying to keep it about Zachary and not about the pending trial. But yeah, due to that, just like I said, unfortunate turn of events, they have to keep this interaction going with their son's murder, so that she can speak with her infant son. So then, incredibly, it's ruled that she's not a danger to anyone. Well, the only person she was a danger to was Andrew, and he's dead. She's killed him. So that she's not a danger to the public at large. And for that reason, she can go free on bail. But, you know, she can go free. So she's back out of jail. The child, Zachary, then goes back to her. Kate and David are still up in Newfoundland, you know, a million miles away from their actual home, trying to get their day in court, trying to get sole custody of their grandson, Zachary, and still having to maintain contact with her. And what's worse still is the fact that she's out of jail now, and because she's out of jail now, they're dragged along to, you know, daily excursions, like family fucking outings with their son's murder. And again, if they want to have a relationship with their grandson, they have to play ball. So there's swimming lessons. There's photographs of them in the pool with Shirley and Zachary. They are, you know, forced to play along with this charade, all in an effort to maintain a you know, relationship with their grandson and, you know, hopefully, ultimately win sole custody. But yeah, you just see how fucking deluded she is. There's like other recorded phone calls where she's asking them, you know, if they'll reconsider going to family counselling so that they can overcome their issues. And, you know, basically very politely and very curtly in the calls are telling her to go shite. But like, she thinks there's some, you know, this is something counselling can fix, when obviously, you know, she's murdered their son. Like, she's a fucking nut job. In other words, like, she's just so fucking deluded that she thinks they can play happy families, and you know, she thinks Andrew can be forgotten about and that they can just all happily move on with their lives. So that narrative is interlaced with Kurt. Again, he's still traveling. Remember, he's still doing the lap of the UK and the US, doing these interviews with Andrew's family and friends. And they're just heartbreaking. Like, you'd want to have a heart of stone, not to cry watching this documentary. That, you know, the murder is so fresh because it's less than a year. Well, it's probably a year at this point. And they're recounting the murder of one of their best friends, and then obviously this just totally fucked up situation with his parents and Zachary up in Canada as well. It's a lot. Okay. So at this point in the documentary, there is a plot twist. If you don't want to know what it is, if you don't want any spoilers, now is the time to turn off this podcast. So, like I said, David and Kate are up in Newfoundland. Shirley is out of jail, and she has got back custody of Zachary pending the trial. So they're still waiting to go to trial. And then very, very, very tragically and very sadly, 2 bodies are found in the water off Newfoundland. So Shirley has strapped Zachary to her chest with a piece of clothing and waded into the water and drowned the 2 of them. And not only has she killed herself and her infant son, I think he's 13 months old when she kills him, she did it with the intention of trying to frame her current love interest who has rejected her. So she's been seeing this guy kind of unbeknownst to anybody and obsessing with him, and he wants nothing to do with her. And in an attempt to teach him a lesson, she has tried to make it look like he's murdered her and Zachary. They then find out as well that this is not Shirley's first rodeo. She has eight restraining orders against her. She has 2 children from 2 previous relationships that she has no relationship with or any interest in, as far as the film is concerned. And it is not the first time that she's tried to frame someone for a crime. So earlier in the film, we are, you know, we're shown Andrew and Shirley's relationship in a very bad light. It shows how they're on again, off again, that she is, you know, clearly more into him than he is into her, that she like contacts his ex-girlfriend and says, you know, he loves me more than he ever loved you, and they were engaged, like, you know, this kind of shit. So she's obviously got issues. And then, you know, through talking to Andrew's friends as well, we learned the fact that he has literally tried to break up with her 5 million times to no avail. One of the friends actually documents an occasion where Andrew dumped her, he broke up with her, he put her on a plane home to Newfoundland, he went back to his own house, and that I think something crazy like, you know, 5:30 or 6:30 the next morning, she's back at his front door. Like, so there's definitely warning signs that this woman is unhinged and that, you know, she's probably not the full shilling, probably not all there mentally, and probably has some issues. So like I said, look, tragically at this point in the documentary, Shirley has killed herself and murdered her infant son Zachary as well. And understandably, David and Kate are just inconsolable, and it's again this beautiful storytelling. What Kurt does is he interlaces the footage that he shot of Kate and David speaking about seeing their son's body, and then, you know, whatever, a year and a bit later, he shoots the footage of them speaking about seeing Zachary's body for the first time, and he cuts it back to back, and it's just, oh God, like, just try and watch this with it. I was bawling watching this. Such a hard watch, but just really, really beautiful as well. Just so fucking tragic and so fucking poignant. But obviously, look, at this point in the documentary, the whole narrative has now changed, because remember, this was meant to be a video diary to Zachary, showing him, detailing to him who his father was. And now Zachary is dead. So at this point, you know, Kurt kind of goes, I then needed to just reassess, like, who is this documentary for? What is the point of this documentary now? What am I trying to achieve? What's the objective? So he kind of comes to the realization then, through speaking with Kate and David, who are just absolutely racked with grief, and God love them. They can't seem to find a reason to go on. You know, they're on camera and they're actively talking about how they've contemplated suicide, how they've contemplated just finishing it all. There's nothing left to live for. And then again, Kurt does this beautiful thing through his storytelling and through the editing where, you know, it cuts all these interviews together with these hundreds and hundreds of friends and family members, and they're all talking about Andrew, but then how they all say, like, how lucky Andrew was to have parents like Kate and David, how anybody would be lucky to have parents like Kate and David, how they're 1 in a million, how they are, you know, just pillars of their community, how they're lovely people, how they're educated, empathetic, passionate people, good people, and how they all say the same thing. And that is that, you know, they may have lost their only son, Andrew, but they're my mom and dad now. And they literally all say that nearly verbatim. And he just cuts that together. he cuts that together, and it's just this lovely, this is what it is now, is giving David and Kate a reason to go on, a reason to live, when, let's be honest, they can be forgiven for wanting to just fucking end it all. They've had such tragedy thrown on them, not once but twice in such a short space of time. So it's no longer a movie for Zachary to teach him about his father. It now becomes the reason for Kate and David to keep going. And that is to get justice for Andrew and for Zachary, and, pull the justice system up. This system that was meant to be there to protect them, that absolutely, categorically, spectacularly fucking failed them. Let her out of jail not once but twice. Let her back into Zachary's life not once but twice. Judges deciding that she posed no threat to the general public. And again, this he edits this all together, when Zachary is then murdered. He edits all the bits that we saw previously in the documentary, the judge ruling that she was no danger to anyone. He cuts it all together, and it's a real fast cut, that you're just bombarded with all this information, and it kind of, sends your mind into a tailspin, and I suppose kind of mimics what David and Kate must have been feeling at that point in time. So that's what they do. They then, in the wake of this double tragedy, they turn their grief into something productive, and they just become advocates. And, David, Andrew's father and Zachary's grandfather, actually, releases a book on the subject, and it was a bestseller. And they fight for reform. They fight for reform within the judicial system, within the legal system, that, all these stupid little fucking mistakes that, were allowed to happen, and only for them. Maybe not Andrew, but Zachary probably would still be with us today, And that's what they do. So they could have easily decided to return home, but they've kind of integrated themselves into Newfoundland and that community. And, it speaks to members of the community as well. And it just talks about how they're more loved probably there than people who've been there their whole lives. They've integrated so well into that community, and they're so well and highly thought of. And the last segment of the documentary then just follows that fight. So it follows them getting this report on their grandson's death, and it's there in black and white in the report that his death could have been avoided. It then follows them as they, fight for reform within the legal system. They, talk before the government in Canada to get that reform, and how they do it, how they get it reformed successfully. So it is a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. And often I find this the case that, something I can easily be put off. We all can, I suppose. We can easily be put off watching something. Just the wording of a synopsis, the wording of a log line, the poster for a movie can be enough to throw us off sometimes. And this, like I said, I delayed on watching this for so long because I was just like, oh yeah, sounds nice, but doesn't sound anything spectacular. And it is. It really, really is. But you will be roaring. You have been warned. You'll be absolutely bawling. I was in the bed watching this on the phone, and when you have to keep putting your head back to blink back the tears. Oh, it's so tough. It's so tough at times. So yeah, absolutely, I would recommend it. I don't think there's any doubts there. There's a reason it has such a high score, and it's hard. It's hard to get a fucking high score documentary wise on IMDb. Just go look at the rating. Think of your favorite documentary. Check it out on IMDb, and you'll see it's very hard to get a high score. So 8.5, like I said, is a very, very, very hard to beat score, and very respectable and very well deserved. So guys, that is it. That is today's episode, all about Dear Zachary. Go out and watch it. It's very easily found online as well, I should say. So it's not on any of the streaming sites over here, but you'll get it online very, very simply. Literally stick it into the old Google box. Watch online, free, click. Yeah, and there's like 5 million links. And it's, you know, not even 2 hours long, and it's well worth it. So guys, we have come to the end of another episode of What's Up Doc, the documentary review podcast. Remember, as always, I am your host, Gemma Delaney, and as always, if you'd like to show your love and appreciation for all the fucking hard work I do sourcing all these class documentaries for you, there is nothing more powerful than simply reviewing us on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. You can't do it on Spotify, but following us, subscribing to us on Spotify, or whatever the platform is that you use. And also following us on social media and resharing our shite and recommending our shite. Because it's not shite, it's good. Guys, as always, like I said, Gemma Delaney, your host. Good luck, good night, God bless. Take it easy, guys.
Weight loss starts with the mind, and nobody knows this better than Martha Cameron, who lost 20 pounds on Noom Weight.
Yeah, I lost 20 pounds and kept it off.
So Martha, why did Noom Weight work so well for you?
Well, Noom was just a really positive weight loss experience for me, and compared to other weight loss programs, they gave me the freedom and flexibility to keep eating what I loved, and that made all the difference in the world because it made me actually enjoy the process. You know what I mean?
Oh, we know, Martha. Learn how Noom's psychological approach can help you lose weight at Noom.com.